This is a series on C for embedded systems. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Making decisions in C. The ability to compare values of expressions and, based on the outcome, choose to execute one set of statements or another is a powerful tool in programming. Comparing things in C can be done using relational operators by comparing two values. So below are the relational operators. We will cover relational operators more in detail, but for now, these are the relational operators. One is equal to, this is not equal to, the greater than, the less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So these are the operators that you can use to compare two values. Each of these operations result in a value of type integer. So the result of each operation is 1 if the comparison is true and 0 if the comparison is false. So as you know, in C, the true is basically 1 and false is basically 0. Well, true sometimes is anything greater than 0 is considered true. So anything that is more than 0 is true. So anything more than 0 is considered as a true value. Expressions involving relational operators are called logical expressions or Boolean expressions because they result in just one of two values, either true or false. Because a relational operator produces a Boolean result, you can store the resultant value of the type bool. So in C, if you include bool.h, it will provide you to store this as a bool type. Otherwise, you can actually store it as an integer. So bool result is equal to 5 less than 4. This will result in false because 5 is not less than 4, it's more than 4. Well, this is about a short introduction about the relational operators. Now let's see the first uh, statement to make a decision. The simplest statement that follows you to make a decision is the if statement. So this is the fundamental statement which will allow you to make a decision. So the general form or a syntax of the if statement is you have if and inside a parenthesis you need to give an expression. So this expression should evaluate to some integer value and you will have a statement follows that. And you have the next statement. So the expression in parentheses can be any expression that result in a value of true or false. If the expression is true, statement 1 gets executed, after which the program continues with the next statement. If the expression is false, the statement 1 is skipped and execution continues immediately with the next statement. So you can see this flow diagram. So is it raining? If it is raining, then take umbrella, otherwise, and walk to work. And if it is raining, if it is no, then you have to walk to work. So it's something like if an expression is true, if it is yes, statement 1 gets executed, followed by the statement, next statement gets executed. If the expression equal to true evaluates to false, if it is false, then it will skip the statement and execute the next statement. So that is the gist of if condition. So let's understand this in the code. So this is if this is an empty main function. So I will start writing code. If the expression what I'm making is 5 is less than 4, if it is the case, then printf 5 is less than 4, more than 4. So what I will do is I will change this so that I will illustrate how it works. Then printf, and the statement which I will give is uh, value is compared. Is compared. It's printf statement. So don't we should not miss the semicolons, and you have to understand that after if there is no semicolon, it's followed by you should have a statement. So let's compile this. GCC, the file name is ifelse.c. The compile here, then a.exe I'm executing. Okay, so 5 is more than 4. So let me compile it again and execute. So if you see here, 5 is more than 4. So I should have given a new line, so that a line breaker, so that it prints in the new line. Okay, so if you see here, 5 is more than 4, the value is compared. So you can see 5 is greater than 4. This statement got true. Because of that, line number 6 got printed, and it followed the line number 8. Now what I'll make is I will just change it. Is 5 less than 4? Then let's see what happens. Compiled and a.exe. See, the value is compared, but nothing got printed. That means 5 is less than 4 is not true. That's why the line number 6 is do not print. So I hope this is clear now. So this is about the if statement. So one more thing is that this if need not be a single line. It can be a block of code, something like this. So this will also work. So you can have any number of statements inside this block of code. Okay, so now we have learned about if. Let's extend the if statement with the if else. The syntax of if else statement is as follows. You have an if expression, and then the statement, else the statement 2, then followed by the rest of the code. If expression evaluates to true, the statement 1 is executed and the program continues with the next statement. If expression evaluates to false, statement 2 that follows the else keyword is executed and the program continues with the next statement. So this is illustrated in this picture. So is it raining? Then if it is not raining, take jacket and walk to work. If it is raining, take umbrella and then walk to work. So that's in both the cases. You have something to execute. So that's when you will use the if else. So expression is true, yes, statement 1 gets executed. If expression true is false or no, then the statement 2 gets executed and followed by you have next statement to be executed. Well, let's illustrate this with an example here. So I will take the same example. So if less than 4, and I will introduce an else block. So else printf 5 is less than 4. Okay. So here if you see, is 5 less than 4? No, that means 5 is more than 4. So let's execute this and see what happens. Okay, I did not put a semicolon here. As I said, never miss semicolon at the end of any statement. So then a.exe, you can see is 5 is more than 4, the value is compared. Okay, so if this statement got uh, this statement did not execute and it executed the else block. So that is the that's the way if else works. If 5 is greater than 4, then you can say 5 is more than 4 and value is compared. Okay, well, the example is something weird, but I hope you understood the point. So you can also make it as if it is 0, let's say what happens. That means this is false inherently and it should execute the else case. You can see value more than 4 and value is compared. So it executed the else block. If it is true, that means if it's 1, let's compare. So 5 is less than 4, this block got executed and the value is compared. So that is the use of if and else, if else. Okay, so now let's come to the one more important aspect of if else. You can actually do an if else nested statements. So it is possible to have ifs within ifs. So these are called nested ifs. The syntax of the nested if statement is as follows. You have the expression, the first if expression, and followed by you can have a statement A. Then and inside that you can have an if and else statement. So that this is an if else block. This is the first if else block, and within that you have a nested if else block. And after your first if block, you can have else and statement is T, followed by you can have a statement E. So here you can see that the second if condition, the expression 2, is only checked if the first if condition expression 1 is true. The braces enclose statement A and the second if are necessary to make both these statements a part of what is executed when expression 1 is true. So note the else is aligned with if to which it belongs. What it means is that only if the expression 1 is true, then you will have a chance to evaluate expression true. Sorry, expression 2. Otherwise, this block is never executed. And for each if, you have an else block that has to be aligned properly. So that is the understanding. Okay, so is weather good? Sit in indoors. If it is yes, sit in yard. If it's cool, then sit in shade. Sorry, if it's cool, sit in sun. Otherwise, sit in shade. And if the weather is not good, then sit indoors and drink some lemonade. So something of this sort. So that means if expression 1 is true, it will come to the statement A, and inside that you have an if statement, that's diamond block. Normally a decision is diamond block, and expression 2 gets evaluated. If expression 2 is true, statement B gets executed after that, and statement A. If the statement 1 itself is false, statement D gets executed and it comes out, and then execute statement E. So that is how it works. Okay, so I'll illustrate this with an example. So here you can see that what I'm trying to do is compare two values. So what I'll do is int number1, then int num2. So I'll take int number3. So I'll take three numbers. Okay, so what I'll do is I will compare number1 is greater than number2. If so, what we will do is let's compare. We'll have one more if case. Well, let's print it. So number 1 is greater than number 2. Now let's again evaluate. If number 1 is greater than number 3, printf, just put number 1 is greater than number 3, and make sure to put the semicolon, and then else print number 3 is, I'll just say number 1 is less than number 3, and followed by you have an else statement. Here we just print number 1 is less than number 2. So that's how the program is. Let's see what happens. So I will initialize these numbers to 10, 20, and 30. So let's execute. Let's compile and execute. So here you can see, okay, I have not included new lines. That's why it is kind of cumbersome to watch the result. Okay, so now I should be able to see this properly. Okay, here you can see number 1 is less than number 2, the value is compared. So here you can see that is number 1 greater than number 2? It's false. So that's why else case got executed. So the number 1 is less than number 2. So the value is compared. So it did not enter the first thing. So what I'll do is I will just change it to 20 and 10 and see what happens here. You can see that number 1 is greater than number 2. Yes. Then print number 1 is greater than number 2. Then if number 1 is greater than number 3, it's not. So it printed number 1 is less than number 3. The value is compared. So it entered this if block, it evaluated this if block, and then since number 1 is not greater than number 3, else got printed. So I'll, I will just change it to just 5 and see what happens. So here you can see that number 1 is greater than number 2. That's correct. So it entered the first if block. It is number 1 is greater than number 3. It entered the number 1 in this line number 14 got printed because number 1 is greater than number 3. So both if cases are executed, and after that it exits this block of code, and then it comes out of first if block, then followed by that line number 25 got executed, the values compared. So this is the way if else ladder works, and this is the way you can use it. I hope this is clear. Okay, so this is about the if else ladder. So the one key thing is you can use any number of if else's inside, but it's always good practice not to exceed two levels of if else. So we have some code. So as you include more number of if else within if or nested ifs, the code complexity gets increased. Because of that, uh, it's not maintainable. So always be sure not exceed 2 to 3 levels of nesting. Okay, so let's look at logic operators, because you can use logical operators to decide. This is also used in decision. So you can use logic operators within if or if else statements. Well, so sometimes it's not enough to perform a single test for a decision. So you may want to combine 2 or more checks on values and perform certain action only when they're all true. So following table shows all the logical operators supported by C language. Well, so the operator and double ampersand will be called logical and single vertical lines called logical OR operator, and this is not called a not operator, is used to reverse the logical state of its operand. If a condition is true, then logic not operation will be make it false. So let's see this with an example. I will create a new file here. So ash include stdio.h, the int main. I will say void because I don't take any arguments inside main. So here what I'll do is, as we did before in teacher, let's say n1, I'll say n1, then int n2, then int n3. So what I'll do is we'll just take these 3 and then initialize these values as before, like equal to 10, equal to 20, equal to 30. So these are the assignment or initialization that I'm doing. And here I will say if n1 is greater than n2, or I will say less than n2, I'll say and n1 is less than n3. So this is one block of if statement. So print, I will say that I'll just print the same thing. So n1 is less than n2 and which is less than n3. Okay, so let's execute this and see what happens. Also, I will give an else condition, not else if, it's an else. The same thing, but I will change this a little bit. So n1 is less than n2, so n1 is less than n2, fine. And n2 is less than n3. And the code that I'm going to print is similar to this. I'll add a new line here. So what I'll do is copy paste it. Well, that's copy paste is a friend. Then you have return 0. So let's see how it behaves. So always make sure to have parentheses so that you are very sure of what you're doing. Of course, C has its own operator precedence. If you're not sure of operator precedence, always make sure to put them in parentheses. Well, not something is error. Expected a semicolon where. So it is actually else if. Well, in this case, what we will do is let's compile and then see a.exe. Here you can see that it printed n1 is less than n2 is less than n3. So this is the line. So what it means is that n1 is less than n2, correct? And n1 is also less than n3, and both are ANDed. So now what we will do is we will check the other thing. So what we'll do is we'll try to make this a little bit smaller, so 15. So let's see what happens. Here you can see that if it evaluates, so else if gets into execution. So what we wanted is to evaluate these things. So what I'll do is I will remove else part here. Just wanted to see how it works, so whether it prints or not. So here in this case, both n1 is less than 2 and n2 is less than 3. Let's see what happens. Only this got printed and this did not. So what I'll do is I will make it or by doing this, putting two lines here, parallel lines, and basically the or operator. Here you can see that both got printed because it's an or. Either this should be true or this should be true. This gets printed. So that is how it works. So that means you can use logical operators to perform or make decisions. So I hope this is clear. Next, you have the conditional operator. This is also a little bit important. We will use it sometimes, but not very often. The conditional operator evaluates to one of two expressions, depending on whether the logical operation evaluates true or false. Because three operands are involved, the logical operation plus two other expressions. Uh, this operator is also referred as a ternary operator because it involves two other expressions because there are three operands are involved because you condition your expression 1 and expression 2. The general representation of an expression using the conditional operation looks like this. You have a condition and this is an expression 1 or 2. So notice how the operator is arranged in relation to the operand. The question mark, the character, follows the logical expression, the condition. On the right of the question mark, there are two operands, expression 1 and expression 2, that represent choices. The value that results from the operation will be the value of expression 1 if the condition evaluates to true, or the value of expression 2 if the condition evaluates to false. Note that only one, there's only one, either expression 1 or expression 2 will be evaluated. So let's see this in the code. So what we will do is, let's just come up with uh, an a conditional here. So the condition is, let's say n1 is less than n2. If it is the case, so what we'll do is, we'll have to put a question mark, then print. Hope it works. I will just say this one. Syntax is you have to have a colon, then n1 is actually greater than n2. So let's see what it prints. So I'll just comment this part of code. Okay, so let's execute it. You can see that it printed n1 less than n2, right? So what I will do is n1 less than n2. I will just change the n1 to 30 and see what happens. Compiling and executing. Here you can see that when n1 is greater than n2, that means n1 is not equal to n2, this statement got printed. So here n1 is greater than n2. So this is as simple as that. So here you can have a block of code, of course not a block, just a statements. You cannot have a block of code. So let's try that out. So can we have like this? Does it work? Let's see. You see, the expectation, it's not a valid. Uh, you cannot have a block of code. So it should just be an expression. So normally we use this uh, in, say for example, finding the bits. So it's more used in embedded world, I would say. Well, that's all for the decision making. Okay, so in this video we have learned if else, and also something about relational operators, something on the logical operators. So we'll have more examples in the future on the relational and the logical operators. But the gist of this video is to explain you the if and the if else cases. And also we have seen the conditional operator. So this with this. So I hope this is clear. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.
Subscribe to the channel for more projects, courses, tutorials, and tools.